Good evening and welcome to a CPH public webinar on emotional neglect and the wounded inner child. I present to you your speaker, Ms. Ellen Kramer, founder of the College of Practical Homeopathy. Ellen, over to you.
Thank you, Som. Thank you for your introduction. Yes, my name is Ellen Kramer, and I am the founder of the Practical College course. So, what I'd like to do is to give you a context of why emotional neglect and the wounded inner child is very important to us as practitioners. Here at CPH, we spend our time looking at case analysis, analyzing the case, and looking at where traumas start. Now, one of the things about emotional neglect, it's an inner wound. And it's a wound that's often defined by its absence. It's not that something happens to a child, it's what doesn't happen. You can't see it. And so when you're looking at your case, all you can see is patterns of behavior that adults bring to you. But if we're going to give the right context to the symptoms that the body's doing, we need to understand where it's coming from. So there's an absence of being held and loved and connected. Most people, and I hope whilst you're listening at this, you may recognize aspects of this in yourself. It doesn't matter whether you're a practitioner, whether you're just listening in because somebody recommended the webinar, or whether you are a patient and you've not been able to understand what's going on for you and the repeated patterns in your life. We're not looking at this from other therapeutic points. We're looking at this from case analysis, the way in which we find the elephant in the room. It's staring at us, but it's very difficult to see that wound because for a lot of people, when they talk about their childhood, when they're suffering from emotional neglect, they don't even recognize that they are, but they never quite feel right. They have feelings that are suppressed, not felt. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at this, and then later on in the slides, we're going to look at this from a homeopathic perspective. But we need to understand what is going on. It's a wound. It's buried. It's unseen and it's unanswered. It's feelings that are not named. So one of the things about humans, because this, what we do at CPH, we see this as a people's business. And humans are designed to connect, to express, to feel safe and secure. That's what children are looking for, that feeling of validation of being seen. So when joy is not shared, feelings are not named, comforts, children are not comforted in a way that makes them feel safe, then something gets dysregulated. Their inner world is not mirrored externally for them. So what does a child do? And the reason why I'm talking about starting with childhood, we see adults in clinic, but the hidden wound, which is in plain sight, is not always recognized when we're looking at patients. It's the same when you're doing work on yourself. You may not necessarily understand how deep the wound is. One of the light bulbs that come up in clinic is when somebody says, well, I had a happy childhood. Well, happy people don't get sick, and yet they've got all these symptoms. So we've got to go back and look at where it's all coming from. And sometimes it's not obvious. So, in order to make sense of how the child feels, we need to track back and look at the patterns that the adult is presenting to us. So, if children aren't getting feedback from their parents and validation about how they feel, they begin to learn that their feelings don't matter. Now, emotions are there to heal us. They express aspects of ourselves. They're very, very important. So if we're sitting there and the adults in the room are not showing and validating how we feel, then we begin to compensate. Children are hot-wired to feel connected, loved, safe, and secure. Okay, so the internal dialogue for the child begins to change. They disconnect from how they feel because their feelings don't have meaning to them. They blame themselves. So they will try, if there's dysregulation in the family, they blame themselves because they're the center of the universe. And so they see that that is about them. It's not about the emotional environment. They just don't have the ability to see that, but they can feel it. They can feel when parents are unhappy. They can feel when they're not wanted. So when we're backtracking and we're looking at this, we'll often say, go back, find out from your mother. What did she feel when she first knew she was pregnant with you? Because that makes a big difference. If you want to learn more about this, then read The Secret Life of the Unborn Child. Because however she feels, the unborn child is downloading that. So this can trace right back in utero. Children don't need perfection. Ultimately, they just need love. Someone to notice them. Someone to be there and celebrate with them. They need someone who's interested and curious about their world. Not dismissive, but interested in their world. They need somebody to soothe them when they're unhappy, when things happen at school, when they fall over. They need the comfort of an adult because that tells them that they're safe. Comfort can repair, it can calm. It reassures children that they matter because you are there. Safety. In order for a child or a human being to thrive, to be creative, they need to feel safe. They need that structure of safety, of being held. But what they do need within that structure is firm boundaries because they don't have the experience of life. Adults and parents are there to boundary them and guide them. So the whole idea of it takes a village to bring up a child, actually, it's true in a way because a child's needs can be met by different people in the village. This is why extended families were important. What they need is someone to support them, someone who really supports who they are, what they're doing, their creativity. They encourage them. They encourage them to express. So Secure attachments grow through thousands of different little things that are done on a daily basis for children. It's being there and interested in them. If you're giving guidance, it's having that guidance affirmed in a way that they understand. So when we're children and our needs go unanswered, our system adapts, our nervous system adapts. So there's two aspects to this, okay? Either you get into that place of hyper arousal. That's when you're always anxious, you're vigilant, and you're alert all the time. This has big implications on your nervous system and your endocrine system, particularly the adrenals. People become overly clingy. They need, and often that neediness, once they move on to be adults in adult relationships, can be suffocating for the other person who they want to satisfy their need because they never got that need satisfied by their parents, either the father or the mother. That wasn't satisfied, and so they cling. They constantly need reassurance. They're looking at someone outside themselves to validate. When a child is loved, safe and secure, and parents validate them, they grow up into adults that can validate themselves. They're not looking for other people to fix things for them like a child. In hyperarousal, they can become extremely emotionally intense and over functioning. They cannot relax. And this has long-term implications, which drives you into places of exhaustion. Then you've got the hypoarousal, the total shutdown, the numbness, withdrawal, and self-reliance. Because their needs were never met, they find ways of meeting their own needs. They have a lot of difficulty identifying with their own feelings. They have no idea how they feel. They walk through life feeling that they're walking through treacle, and their energy becomes very low and disconnected. So, you know, from not being validated, loved, and given a secure base, there are ways that you present yourself in the world. And this is seen when we're taking cases and we're case analyzing. Because this is so hidden, when you're asking people, they're telling you they're okay, they're fine. So the two states can look the same. It's about survival. And both of them are about staying safe. The same wound can produce different strategies for different people. What may look to you as their personality may not necessarily be their personality. It's what they become from the wound. It's not who they really are, but their adaptation to needs that are not met that makes it look that's their personality. So people will ask, well, what do you feel about that? Well, I don't know. What makes you angry? I don't know. I don't understand why I feel so anxious, so fearful all the time. And then you get boxed into, oh, they're just an anxious person. Well, no, anxiety is a symptom. So if people are clingy and reaching out, who want someone close, they're looking for safety and security. You can end up performing to earn love. So the child looks at their place in the home and they realize that when they're performing and doing well, their grades are good, they get external validation. That validation to the child is love. And so they keep performing to earn that love. It's very exhausting. They can withdraw, and that goes into the numbness. They withdraw inwards, can be depression. So that is, they need less and less from other people. They don't expect anything. You know why? Because they never got anything as a child. Okay? So they just don't need anything. If you ask them, what do you need? They don't need anything. And it looks like they're self-sufficient, but they don't need because their needs were never met. The numbness, this to me leads into that numbness. They feel nothing. And then the other aspect is the control. They have to control everything around them. They become controlling in their own relationships. When you're looking at children, they want to control their parents, their siblings, because that control makes them feel safe. They don't like surprises because a surprise is out of their control. So these are different traits which you think are personality traits, but actually they're signaling needs that were never met in the first place as a child, where they didn't have that opportunity to grow from a place of safety and security. It's a bit like planting a weed, a seed, and just giving it the time to open up and reach for the light. That's what a patient gardener does. So all of these are intelligent adaptations. They're not character flaws. It's the way the human is adapted to feelings that are suppressed, needs not met, comfort's not there for the child. The healing process is not about shaming. It's not about shaming the strategy. It's about updating it, re-looking at this from a different perspective. So, the adult life, this is what most of us see in practice. This may be something that you are experiencing yourself and not understanding why you're like this. So, trust, difficulty in trusting others and letting them close. So there's like a wall. They don't let people in. Connection, a deep fear of abandonment. Okay, so what you can see, these are things like abandonment. These are symptoms. They're not the trauma. The trauma can be much more subtle. fear of intimacy, an inability to allow others to hug them. Worth, this can come out as perfectionism. Shame, relentless self-criticism. This is the dialogue that goes on in the brain. So people don't relax. They can't sleep deeply. They're in that hyper-arousal state because they're so busy beating themselves up that they're not living. They're not being human beings. They're being human doers, distracting themselves all the time. So they don't actually have to feel that pain, that inner wound, that sense that they're not worthy of love. So if they're perfect at what they do, then others will value them. So we're looking at all of this and seeing that these are not the personality, they're the adaptation. Identity, that sense of emptiness. Even when they're successful, they actually feel they're an imposter. Different, that sense that they're different, they never belong. They can never actually belong to a crowd, the outsider looking in. And then the regulation, the constant anxiety, the shutting down, or the chronic over-functioning. So when we're looking at cases and we're looking at ourselves, these are some of the things we may want to write down so that we can actually step out of the frame and see the full picture, see exactly what's going on for us. Okay, let's take a deep breath and have a gentle pause here. Write down which sentence feels most familiar to you. Have a think about that. And if you have a loved one or a partner, you may want to ask them to think about these things. If they're overly clingy, smothering, and all you want them to do is to go away, supporting them to actually look at this, because the answers may lie in their early childhood where their needs were never met, where they were overly criticized by a parent. I ask for very little. I over-explain my needs. I feel responsible for everyone. I disconnect when emotions rise. You'll see that this a lot, particularly if anger arises. I look capable, but rarely feel safe. These are not judgments. They're actually pointers in terms of getting in touch with who you are, or pointers in terms of understanding where your patient or client is. The real healing begins with recognition. Healing is feeling. All the feelings that got suppressed, that got put in boxes, that got shut down, which are recorded by the subconscious, and they're so deep. that we don't even recognize where they come from. The wound is workable when it becomes visible. If you don't know it's there, you can't work with it. You're just reacting over and over again to different situations in the same way. But it's not nothing. It's naming what was missing. The child that cried and cried themselves to sleep. When their pet died, they cried and no one sat with them and talked about death, grief, or any of these things. So what was missing? The name. Separate the wound from your worth. 3, allow grief to have a language. And it does. It has a language. It allows you to get in touch with the wound. Once you recognize this, it replaces the confusion and all the negative emotions that go with it, like shame and guilt. And that should transform into compassion. Compassion for yourself, compassion for others, but particularly yourself, because you can't give to someone else if you don't have it. Compassion allows the grief. It opens the door to healing that deepest wound of the feelings that were suppressed. That's what compassion does. It helps you to step back and allow it to be without judgment. There's no judgment here on your parents or anything. It is what it is. But this is the greatest opportunity to freedom, that inner freedom when you accept and love yourself just as you are. Recognition is learned in relationships. We often attract people in our lives. We think we're in love and they're going to satisfy our needs, only to find out that they end up being exactly like our parents in some way. So by recognizing is learned in relationships. And the most important relationship of all is with yourself. So take time out, notice sensations, notice the emotions, name them. Respond with kindness to yourself, take your time. Listen to the critical voice in your head and flip the script to voices that are gentler, more compassionate. Most of the time, a lot of that self-criticism, none of it's true. Choose consistency. That's consistency with people that you trust, consistency with yourself. Ask with clarity and open your hands to receiving. There are things that you can do for yourself that shows that you love and accept yourself. Just by breathing deeply. Breathing deeply allows the whole nervous system to actually relax. The nervous system feels safe when you breathe deeply. If you breathe shallowly, you're in alert. So breathing deeply orientates the body to that place of safety. It takes you out of doing, anxiety. Move in a way that grounds you. There are exercises that you can do. For me, Tai Chi and Qigong are my favorite. They're brilliant exercises to move. Walking in nature, allowing greenery to hold you. Walking by the river and stay in the present. Stay in the moment. Safety is about repetition. Take little steps. Keep having an adventure in life so that the wound can heal. It heals when you feel safe and secure. So repairing is not a grand gesture by yourself, your loved ones, or the patients. It's a steady experience of being met by you. Take a deep breath before you self-criticize. Baby steps. Promise one small thing, then keep it. Boundaries. This is a big one. One honest no or not yet. Learn to say no and mean it. Sometimes you'll get it right and be able to say no, and sometimes somebody will overstep your boundaries. You're getting there. These are the little steps. You're not wrong. You're slowly getting there. Making room for comfort. Make room to rest. Play. Do things that you haven't done before. Reach. Ask for help before a crisis. Just ask. There are people there who will be there for you, who have your back, who want to see the very best in you. This is all a new learning, new steps. So all these little steps, day by day, a little becomes a lot. The more consistent you are with just little things, just little loving things that you do for yourself, and celebrate when your boss said, do this, can you stay late to finish this off? And you say no. When you're stepping out of people pleasing. As you do this step by step, with consistency, you create the internal experience that you were missing as a child. So, a homeopathic lens to this. The same wound can organize itself in different ways. So the homeopathic case taking from CPH explores the individual adaptation, We find the context. We see the repetition. As the Jesuit said, give me a child of 7 and I will show you the man. And how true that is. And this is quite deep looking at it. So when we're seeing the patients, have a look at the shocks in the timeline, the withdrawal, the numbness, the behaviors of perfectionism, the dependency, the depletion, the exhaustion, the fears and the controls. So all these patterns guide inquiry when we're taking the case. They're the light bulbs that support the case taker to ask different questions, because it's from that place that we begin to look at individualizing the case. We know the body doesn't lie. Every organ will reflect what's going on in the case. You will see the patterns as you speak to the patient. So the patterns guide the inquiry. They're not the labels and they're not the diagnosis. As homeopaths, we don't diagnose. We're case takers. We're understanding the cause. And in this case, with emotional neglect, it's not obvious. It's not obvious because it's very easy to look at abandonment as being the cause of the patient's symptoms. It may be that you think that it's the fear that's the cause of all these symptoms. Emotional neglect is in plain sight. And it's not about what was done to the person. It was what was never given to that person. And they may not recognize it themselves, nor may they recognize their adaptation to what was never given. Okay, so let's have a look at some of the remedies that we can use to look at the adaptations. Natrium muriaticum. This is deep grief. It's a remedy with silent grief and withdrawal. There's a level of numbness that comes with it. They feel isolated. I stay alone. Then you have Ignatia. This is for emotional shock, contradictions. My feelings make no sense. Opium. This is a big, big trauma remedy. And usually you'll see stages of other remedies going into this remedy state, which is numbness and total disassociation. They feel nothing. They feel nothing. Nothing affects me. And then you've got aurum metallicum. It's worthlessness, self-criticism. I am not enough. When adaptation reaches outward or grips control, formal patterns that may emerge from the same unmet needs. Carcinosin. I love this remedy. It's the people-pleasing remedy, the perfectionist. They're looking for external validation. I must be perfect. You'll know when this remedy starts working because the word no starts happening a lot more. Then we've got pulsatilla. This is reassurance and seeking clinginess. But this clinginess is a reflection of needs not met as a child. Don't leave me. You have sepia, total burnout, emotional shutdown. I feel nothing. Arsenicum and stramonium. They're fearful, they're anxious, they're vigilant, and they control. They're always on alert. This is when they get into the adrenal mode, when they're hyper anxious about everything. They're extremely controlling. Everything has to be perfect and clean and controlled. So these themes are there to support inquiry. These remedies are there to support inquiry. They're not a replacement for individual case taking. You need to take the case to understand the full story. And the thing with a good case taking, the way we do it at CPH, it will often be the first time the patient has ever told their story to one person. You often hear people saying, I've never told anyone this before. Okay, same trauma, different adaptations. There's no single look in childhood emotional neglect. No, not a flaw. Patterns once protected, something vulnerable. Okay? These are patterns of adaptation to a place where a child's needs were not met. It's not a flaw. It's not a label. You know, when we label children or we label people, that stops the inquiry. They're human. They don't deserve a label. They deserve to be heard, which will give them the foundation to love like they've never loved before, to love themselves. And that's why we don't label. It's not helpful. It doesn't engender inquiry. And it's not a life sentence. New experiences can update old predictions. It opens the door for new opportunities and new experiences. It makes life a lot more joyful. The goal is not to erase the strategy, it's to give the adult more choices. See, once you see what's going on, you can make decisions which are informed. It gives you more choices in life. You're not your past. This is the present. So, the beauty of homeopathic remedies, when applied in the right context and correctly for the patient or for yourself, is that it takes you out of trauma. It opens the door to find balance. And it makes that path of healing clearer. It makes that path for healing a lot clearer for the person. Healing is structured, rational, and gradual. Baby steps forward. So many people who take homeopathic remedies in the right way start recognizing and noticing their patterns. They begin to subtly change them. To regulate, build body safety. practicing connection with others, learning to hug, reparenting, respond differently, repeatedly to situations, be compassionate with yourself. The homeopathic consultation can help at any stage of this process and even start the process. So I've seen it start the process because so many people have never told their full story from birth to where they're at today. They just hadn't had that opportunity. A CPH practitioner will listen. They will listen to the story, guide that whole process of healing. But it is you, the patient, who does that deep healing. So your history may explain your patterns, but it doesn't have to define your future. Healing is feeling. Healing is the return to safety, connection, and self-trust. To me, and I'll say it for myself, it's about feeling again. Healing is feeling. When you can feel and let it be. Okay, thank you very much. I hope I've opened you to different ways of looking at not only patients, yourself, your loved ones. So, Som, I'm open to questions and discussions here.
Hi, Alan. Thank you for that. I think the first thing I'd like to observe is you delivered that with such passion and compassion. I know we have homeopaths from around the world listening, but we also have the general public listening. So I think you've done a great way of a gentle introduction into emotional neglect that starts in childhood that we carry on into our adulthood, what we often call the wounded in the child. And I think you're right, we have to feel it to heal it. And the mind suffers and the body cries out and manifests in different illnesses. So when we see people at 20, 30, 40, 50 years and beyond, and they manifest into diseases, they see a doctor and doctor can't heal what's in the mind, what's in the heart from the childhood, which forms our habits and our behaviors, and we manifest that in various illnesses and diseases. I think that's the way we do things here at CPH. We unravel, and you're absolutely right. We've done thousands of consultations, and people say, I've never felt truly heard. I've never been able to speak my truth. No one's ever listened to me and cared about my journey instead of just worrying about my symptoms. So
Yes,
that's fantastic. We have had some questions, some interesting questions, so we'll come into them in a bit as well.
thank you.
And we'll keep with the same pace and the feeling. And it might be worth going backwards and forwards on a few slides if that's the case. But
Okay,
I'll just go down them in no particular order, but just in the order in which they were asked. Okay.
okay,
So someone said that we have something really questions. Should we save them to the end? Please do. Please keep them in the chat, and we will address them for you right here. For people who are logging off saying, "Well, I'll catch you on the YouTube channel later," that's good, but you missed the opportunity to ask us live questions right now. One of the questions, someone wants us to comment more. So somebody said they'd like more information on creating boundaries. And she says it's the same problem with all areas of my life, my body, my mind, my home, my relationships, my schedule. A person can see auras told this person they have no boundary to their energy. And maybe you can go back to that slide, Ellen, where it said people are people pleasing all the time. The cancer miasm.
yes,
And so this person's saying, look, and it's not to make a cure for this
yeah,
person asking the question. We're saying perhaps you can identify with this, what will happen if I actually say no? So that might be a fear of people's reaction. And that is, we say at CPH, we say, where did them thoughts come from? Because they
yeah,
didn't get into your head by themselves. People have treated you, punished you, devalued you to the point where you've lost your own voice. And one of the sentences we say at CPH is, you're going to love this, people. No is a complete sentence. When you go
Yes.
beyond no, you're justifying, you're explaining, you're defending, you're rationalizing. You don't need to know. You don't need to do that. You simply say no, full stop, period, end of sentence. Ellen, you might have some comments about that.
No, I totally agree. It's a full sentence. And looking at this remedy, carcinosin, I remember when I first got into practice, I used to think, whenever I give this remedy to people, they come back and within about 6 months, they're saying, I'm getting a divorce because they start finding their voice and they start saying no. But what I would like to encourage the person who gave that question is this: see a CPH practitioner and unravel your story. Find out the invisible wound that you're living with that keeps repeating itself
Yeah.
in your life.
You know, we teach here, don't we? We say to people, we repeat what we don't repair. Another way to say it is the lesson is repeated till the lesson is learned. But that kind of makes us feel bad that I haven't learnt my lesson. So we repeat what we don't repair.
Yes.
Sometimes we don't know what to repair. And hopefully, this walkthrough that Ellen's just touched on, it's a very deep subject. We did a whole day on this, or half a day, in Rhode Island a few months ago. And it's a very emotional day. We did that only for our students because obviously they are privileged to get the deep learnings that they take on into their consultations. But that lets us go back in our journey and say, well, where have I learnt to be fearful? This is the word. Where have I learnt to be fearful of speaking my truth? Because I'm fearful of people's reaction. Then the real learn is when we're empowered, we say, well, I'm not responsible for other people's reaction. I'm only responsible for mine. That is standing in your own power. So when you
And
take a case, or if you want to learn yourself and help others, you go on a journey of discovery. What we don't do here is say, Ellen's touched on some remedies. There are four or five that were internal, four or five that were external. Ellen, perhaps you can go through them, just them slides, not to go through them, but highlight them so people can see them. On one set of them internal ones, if we go back a bit more,
yeah,
this one, that is the one to the hypovigilance internally.
yes,
When the adaptation is out, next slide, please, that's where that turns to the hypervigilance.
yeah.
The world is out there, it's out to get me. So this is a deep, deep journey. So I'm glad the person asked this question because many people will be thinking and feeling that the same. So can homeopathy help with boundaries? It can help with boundaries better than
Yes.
psychology, psychotherapy, CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy, because these people actually keep revisiting the same stories you've had. That's like telling a joke. After the fifth time, it stops being funny, but you're not healing anymore. So sitting on a couch talking about it, you can express it, but you're still carrying it. Remedies shift your energy. They get you in tune with yourself, your real inner self, where the world has lied to make you forget yourself. And that's when, Ellen, if you go right back to your penultimate slide, the right last one where the lady sat there healing herself.
Mhm.
Beautiful images you've got here, by the way. There, the one before.
Thank you.
Look at that. I am safe. I am healing. I am whole again. When a person is there, they go, this is a journey inwards, not outwards. So that's a very powerful place to be. And sometimes it can take us years to get there. Sometimes it happens quickly. And no, carcinosin will not make you divorce everybody. We had that. What it
I'm
does
just
is,
teasing.
Ellen, I'll tell you as a man what I have from my female clients. They'll say, I spoke my truth, my partner, my siblings, my parents, my colleagues, my boss, my husband. They say you've changed. Yes, because you've grown, but you've also grown inwards and you realized you remembered who you are. So
Yes.
when you change, people say, oh, you changed. We don't like who you are. What they mean is, we liked who you were when you were our slave. We liked who you were when you listened to what we say. We liked who you were when you did what we demanded. But now you have a voice, we don't think we like you anymore. That's how that's manifested to get you back in your box. So that's a whole different discussion, but that will just tease you. This is the way we teach at CPH, the mindset, set the mind. We set the mind of our people this way, who go out and then set the mind of the rest of the world.
You
Another
see,
question here. Sorry, Ellen, go ahead.
just quickly,
No, not
the,
quickly. Take your
the,
time.
the remedies work they work so subtly. You don't realize you're coming out of the trauma. You begin to feel more like yourself. There's that fear that put you in the box has no power over you, but it's very, very subtle. And it's a beautiful way of healing without having to keep reopening the scars. It supports you to begin to feel. And ultimately, that's what healing is about. You see, when we're in our childhood neglect, where our feelings aren't met, we're not sure that we're allowed feelings. We hide them. So part of the healing process is the feeling again.
You know what,
And
Ellen?
yes, go on.
You just stimulated a thought. I think our next follow-up webinar will be the suppression, oppression, regression, depression, expression
Yes.
webinar, it's all about them feelings being controlled by other people.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, no, that's just what I wanted to add to that. It's opening up to your feelings because you see your emotions are there to help you grow and evolve. And once you begin to feel, you can use your emotions to actually grow and evolve. There's nothing wrong with anger. You can use
Yeah.
that to inspire you. You can use that to help you move forward, get your passion going again.
You know what,
You
Ellen,
know,
what we've seen?
go on.
We've seen what we've discovered and observed in this doing what we do for a living. We've seen people think too much and feel too little. And when they feel, they're told how to feel by other people. So other people are controlling the very thing that is only theirs, their thoughts and their feelings. Isn't that interesting?
Yes,
And that's conditioning, grooming, conforming,
absolutely.
fitting into society or to a family culture or a norm.
Yeah,
And yet you're designed to be free. And you and I talk about this a lot about the EGS, the emotional guidance system.
yeah,
We have a GPS in our cars that tells us how to get wherever we want to go. And yet we were blessed with this emotional guidance system internally that will take us anywhere we want in life. But to do that, we have to tune out everybody on the outside and tune in to the voice on the inside.
yes.
That is the hardest thing that people find in the Western world in life these days.
So these emotions are important and they actually will free you once you understand them. So sadness is asking you it's asking for comfort, you
Yeah.
see. So when we understand what these emotions mean, then we can use them as part of the doors opening to healing and moving forward step by step. Okay, so what was the next question
Next
before
question.
we run the whole
Yeah,
seminar
we
on
could do all night. So
healing?
we're going to move it along. And what I'm going to try and do is combine a couple of questions so they're in the same kind of theme. Okay.
Mhm.
So one question was when someone presents multiple adaptations, e.g., control, perfectionism, fear, do we treat all of them or do we choose some? Right? And then it says here, I imagine these adaptations will change as people release them. Stay there. Let me do the next question. Then someone says, do these situations feed into things like ADHD or other similar conditions? Any thoughts on you? Do you want me to go with that or do you want to go with that?
Well, some you start and let
Well,
me
I'm just a
finish.
question reader. But okay. So when someone
Okay,
presents
you're
multiple,
my partner in
no,
crime
that's
here.
that's true. Okay. And sometimes a bit of two-way dialogue, is a little bit more entertaining to
Yeah.
people. And if they do like it, we will tell them that we've got a podcast coming out soon called Homeopathy Unscripted, where we will just talk the way we talk so people can hear the way we talk. And if it resonates with them, good for them. If it doesn't, also good for them. That's knowing your boundaries, that I'm going to be okay whether you approve or like me or not. That's not arrogance, it's confidence in yourself and self belief. Okay, so when someone presents multiple adaptations, control, perfectionism, fear, Control, perfectionism, fear, as Ellen showed on the slide, these are outward facing hypervigilance. The enemy's out there, so I will control them so they don't make me feel bad. Or I will control my external environment so people don't make me feel bad and say, you're a failure, you're a bad mom, you're not good at school, you're not academically bright. These are external measures. When children are born, and they're in diapers. People love them, hug them, kiss them, feed them. They even smell their diapers to know when the diaper needs changing, or the nappy, we call it in the UK. Then the minute they start crawling, parents start comparing. Oh, my kid crawled. Mine's not crawling. Mine's potty trained. Mine's not even walking. They're in this percentage at school. They're this tall. They're this clever. Where did all that come from? These are external measures. And the stupidest thing I've heard in my life in the maternity wards, people want to know how much a baby weighs. The only one time I want to know a piece of meat is when I'm at the butcher shop. Otherwise, I don't care. People should laugh about that, thinking that's the fallacy and the ridiculousness of measuring and comparing. Even two snowflakes on this beautiful earth are not the same, and yet we compare only 8 billion humans to one another. So in the world sees the stupidity in that, people think, you know what, it doesn't even matter. You're born to be unique and you're more than just H2O, so be your unique self. So how do we treat all these? You take the case and find out what led to what led to what. And that's where case taking matters, not symptom chasing and having a list of symptoms, because we don't know which symptom was caused by what or led to another one. This is where a practical homeopathic case taking is superior to every other method of homeopathy out there. Try it, get seen by a CPH homeopath, and you will know. So that's that one. Any comments from you on there, Ellen, as I keep reading through?
Yes, you have to take the case.
Of course you do.
You do, you know, otherwise it's just an opinion of mine or Som's. Take the case so we can hear the full story. Every human being deserves to be listened to. And it's the not being listened to when they were children that got us here in the first place. So if we're going to be compassionate with ourselves, we've got to be compassionate with our patients and with our loved ones to understand where these symptoms are coming from. Because to me, they're symptoms. They're part of the story. They're not the true story of how the child felt when their mother ignored them, never held them,
You know what, Ellen?
never was never interested. So that's what this is about, the case taking.
Stay on that theme, Ellen, and I'll tell you why. Because somebody else has made a comment and it's directed to you. So that's
Okay.
that allows me just to listen.
Okay.
It says here, I'd be interested to hear Ellen's response to this comment.
Okay.
I would like to point out that emotional neglect can happen even in a loving home. I'm
Absolutely.
going to hang on, not done yet, because I do want to
No.
add my comments in later. In one client's particular case, much of the wounding happened by lack of repair. So you might want to go back to them repair slides as I'm talking through this.
Yeah.
No one ever said, I'm sorry. There would be a fight among family members, and no one would talk about it, seek resolution, or apologize for their part in it. That's what I would call, to quote the Western movies in America, you got the walking wounded. Everyone's
Yeah.
got these emotional wounds. No one's addressing the elephant in the room, and yet everyone's walking around wounded, getting worse and worse. That can build up resentment.
Yes.
And then, so if the children, so no one's apologizing, so the children were left to deal with their heartbreak alone.
Yes.
So I know you can reflect on things that you've seen in your personal life as a child about people being left to their own devices. I've got a lot to say on this, but the person asked specifically for your opinions.
This is actually, I could do another seminar on this.
So do a
It's,
synopsis of it here.
so a synopsis is that it is very, very deep. And yes, you're right that it can look like you're in a loving family and are being well looked after. It looks like that from the outside, but internally it's dysfunctional because
Correct. You say loving.
nothing is ever resolved and you're left feeling empty. because you can never resolve anything inside you, and you've got to find a way of adapting to that. Usually it's, shutting down. There are different strategies that you'll go into. And I see this a lot in practice because that's what I'm looking for. It's the unspoken. The body will always speak the truth.
You know
Okay,
what I
so,
mean?
it is there, and yes, this is this is such an invisible wound, and it doesn't matter what socio logical background you come from rich to poor. I don't care. It's
And
a wound.
I'll tell you something that we've observed in our clinics and our consultations around the world. Because don't forget, we visit all these countries and we see different cultures. It's often the middle to higher socioeconomic backgrounds that put these parameters on. You go to the lower economic backgrounds, if they're angry, they will tell you they're angry. But as they go up the social scale, don't air your dirty laundry. Keep a stiff upper lip. Don't embarrass the family. Keep it good in the community. That's one way that people are groomed or conditioned to ignore their own emotional guidance system. Something else that we've got to think is they say this is a loving family. There's no love there. It's just pretense and it's a fake household. Bold statements, good for me. But what it also means is a couple of phrases for people to take away today. You can't expect healing from an unhealed person. So if the parents don't know how to heal the children are never going to learn that healing. And the parents are only creating the dysfunctional household that they themselves have brought into their own children. To put it another way, children are great imitators. So give them something great to imitate. Children learn what they see, not what they hear. So they watch the behaviors. So all this goes around to manifest in a household. So everyone argues, no one says anything, no one apologizes, no one wants to repair. So people are left to fester and fester and fester. And that's a learned behavior.
Yeah.
Because in other households, parents can tell off their children, they can admonish them, send them to bed, tell them to stop playing on games or reading, put the light out. And the next morning, the children come running down the stairs. Good morning, mummy. Good morning, daddy. I love you. One's a healthy behavior, one's dysfunctional. Children are very good at learning to forget yesterday's issues. But as adults, we carry them on and we fester. And as we grow into our teens, 20s, 30s, 40s, and beyond, we've never let them feelings go. And they become our habits. Habits that are continued become our beliefs. And then we say, well, this is the truth because it's my truth. Well, good for you. The answers we would say is, how's that working out for you? Well, it isn't. Or maybe it's time to put on a different lens, go inwards, feel it, reveal it, heal it, deal with it, and get on with it. So there's some good strategies there. And that's a practical approach that we take. Ellen, if you've got any comments on that, I'm going to scroll down to hear any more
No,
questions that we might have.
go on. Let's move on. Otherwise,
Parents
we go
use
all
mobile
night.
phones at the expense of connection with their children. Yes. If a parent's using a
Absolutely.
mobile phone and then they tell their child to read, the kid wants a phone because that's what the adult is doing. If you want your kid to read, read a book, they'll copy you. So, but it also says you are not important. I am. How many times have we seen it? And kids, parents take their children to these enrichment activities, swimming, dancing, ballet, piano lessons, you name it, they do it. They show the world, I'm a great parent. You ask the parent, how involved are you in that child's actual activity? Nothing. They watch, I do emails. So the child says, you're not bothered, you're just farming me out to somebody else's care. That's the impression to the child. But the parent thinks they're doing a great thing to enrich them. Then
Uh,
the child says, I just wish they'd talk to me for half an hour. Never mind a gym or a swim or a ballet or a piano or a violin or a book club. Just spend time. People think they don't have time. And then the parents say, do you know what I've done for you? Do you know the sacrifices I've made to put you here and here? And the kid's saying, all I wanted was a hug, a kiss, a cuddle, and a chat.
I think looking at the technology, it is really disassociating us from each other and not communicating. So these are things for us to think about for children, the children that you're going to be seeing in practices with behavioral problems. And I know with my own grandchildren, um, my son just banned all the, all the technology, the iPad, the phones, everything for the kids. So from Monday to Friday, they have to read, and it's had a massive impact
Of course it is.
on them, a massive impact
These things are
on
distractions,
communication.
and they're
Yeah,
distractions from getting in touch with human nature.
yeah,
Isn't it funny? The world is more connected, and yet people in the same house are disconnected.
yes,
That's the irony of life. Now, let me go through a couple more here, right? Parents with mobile phones. Do you find that people cycle through many of the adaptations as they heal? Yes, often.
yes, yeah, they
That's
do.
what the healing process is.
Yeah.
Where would extreme clutter fit as a strategy? I don't know. That is just in order to, if it's clutter, maybe it's rebellious. There's no context to that, so I don't know how to comment on that one. Someone else has asked here, Ellen, a question.
Mm.
How can you alter a pattern that you recognize in yourself, but you just don't know how to stop it or change it? I'm going to go first, if I may.
Yes, you
Because
go
we have
ahead.
a phrase, you can't see the picture when you're in the frame. And we always say, do not try and treat yourself. You have a fool for a patient and an idiot as a practitioner. Go and speak to a colleague who can look outside objectively and say, you don't need to do it. We can help you get there.
Yeah.
Sometimes we all need help.
And I think that's an important part of healing is asking for help.
Yeah.
You don't have to do this all by yourself. Just ask for help, and someone will help you. There's always someone there who wants to help you, who loves you enough to help you. Parents may not have shown you that, but there are people in your life as an adult who
Yeah.
will be there to help you.
Right. Let's go on to another few. A quick one here, and this one I'm going to defer to you for a comment, okay? Because I want to
Yes.
try and read ahead. That's the reason why, not because I don't know the answer. That people are tuned in to listen to you more. If they want to hear us two banter, they can tune into our podcast later, but then we won't shut up. Okay. I have a teenage son who is very shut off from the family and cold and unaffectionate. He's the firstborn of three. How can I bring him to be more connected and emotional? I had a difficult birth and struggled to bond with him. He has always been independent while I looked after his younger siblings. Is there a remedy to help? All right, Ellen, one sentence for me. Yes, there is, but you're not there to fix anybody. Get a consultation. Now over to you. Ha ha ha. Go on, I have to get it in because I'm going to read.
Okay. Uh, you've already answered the reason why your son is the way he is. You've given that answer to yourself. Now, I would say have a consultation, really, because
Yeah.
you've just answered why he's behaving the way he is.
Here's something
No
else.
bonding, no bonding, and being he having to take care of himself. He wasn't parented because you were busy parenting other children.
Yeah.
Okay, so get help for him. And he's not there to be fixed, he's there to be loved.
Yeah.
That's it.
And then sometimes when people are left that way, they're like, well, I'll learn to rely on myself. There's dependence, there's independence, and the greatest one is interdependent. I'm good on my own. That's when one and one makes three. That synergy of unity. That's what people need, the synergy of unity, not in silos. And we can do it inadvertently. So whoever wrote that, please don't blame yourself either. If you're running a
No,
busy household, you're doing the best you can with the resources you have. Everyone gets that. So the one is the intention, the second is the effect. But the effect on that particular child is this way. And also, as a parent, you'll know that none of your children are the same. They're unique individuals. And so, like a chessboard rather than a checkerboard, what we call drafts in the UK, every child has different motivations. And you know this. So instead of, and so parents say, oh, I treat you all equally. I would say, don't treat them equally. Treat them justly. What is just for that person? What is just for that person? Someone might need lots of cuddles to show they're loved. Someone might need to be left alone to show they're loved and that they're trusted. So their thing is, do you trust me to do it on my own? Because parents sometimes they say, okay, I'll do it for you. To one person, they love the involvement. To the other child, they're like, hang on, you've just disempowered me. Everyone moves in different ways. So we've got to find that. What does you do? Here's another one, Ellen. When the person cannot remember their childhood or big chunks of their lives.
I'm going to say this again.
Go on.
Have a
Have a
consultation.
consultation.
Have a consultation because once you start using homeopathy, those big chunks of your life, to me as a practitioner, I'd immediately think something happened in your childhood that you don't want to remember and it wasn't a happy time.
Yeah.
So a homeopathic consultation, using the remedies in the right context for you, those memories will come back and it's all part of the healing process.
Right. We have another comment here. Okay. This is going to be an interesting one. Beg your pardon, I've lost it 1 second. Bear with me. Right, okay. I think this was the final one. So if you've got another couple of questions, people, please add them to the chat. Otherwise, we've kept you long enough. We will draw
Yes.
this to a close. So while we're answering this one, have a quick think. Ellen, can you go to our last slide, please, while we're doing this? So people who want to connect with us, that's a QR code that will take you straight to our website. Sorry, Ellen, the last one. No, the very last one, please. And that is a QR code. And that is our website, thecph.co.uk. It doesn't get any easier than that. If you want to reach out, please do. If you want to contact us, there's admin@thecph.co.uk. Okay. So the last question that we've got so far is someone saying, I'm seeing more cases of kids with transgender issues. Any clues connected with what you've shared? I've got some
Again,
comments. I've got some comments, but I'll go after you.
again, take the case because, this can be, it can also be not only emotional, but it can be toxins. There are, various toxins in our environment that can be part of this problem. So, case, we need to see the case first. I know I feel like I'm on this repeating bandwave of we need to see the case. Otherwise, there's no context.
Ellen, what have we learned in all these years of doing this around the world? Other homeopaths, they think they take cases, but they don't. And I'm going to say this boldly out here, and it's recorded. Other homeopaths take cases to collect symptoms, like you put a bucket outside to collect rainwater, and then you use it to water your plants. You're just recycling old, I nearly swore then, old nonsense. Find the cause. Because a lot of homeopaths will say, we do symptom similarity. Well, good for you. Why don't you find the cause first? As we say here, treat the root, not the fruit. So if someone says, I'm seeing transgender issues, that's a number of things. One is that someone who's confused with their own gender, someone who desires to be a different gender, someone who's being peer pressured, or someone who just hates the gender they're in because of the experiences they've had. It could be any one of these. And so the answer, as one of our tutors is famous for saying, it depends. And it depends on the case, on every individual case. There's no magic wand that wipes away any thought, process, condition, or anything. Everybody's on an individual journey. And that's what homeopathy is, respecting the individual. We've just said that snowflakes are H2O, and that can form a gazillion, innumerable number of ways and form a snowflake. And yet the human body, which is more than just H2O, and we expect that to be the same. It's like giving an aspirin. So there isn't a one size fits all in homeopathy, but there's an all sizes fits all. It's individualized. That is the root and the best way to do practical homeopathy. Someone then asked the last question we've got so far, how many years do you need consultations? Sometimes you don't even need years. Depends on
Depends.
you. You can heal rapidly or slowly. Your journey is your own to take.
Yeah. Uh,
Ellen, closing remarks from you.
Closing remarks. Well, what I'll say is honor your story. It deserves to be heard and listened to. And that is part of the feeling to heal process that you go through. Homeopathy helps you get there deeply and very quickly. And we would love to see you at CPH if you're thinking of becoming a practitioner. We do the best training in the world for practitioners. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen. Right, don't go away, anybody. First of all, let me stop this recording.